I'm here with Nalida Besson. We got connected through Facebook, and she's lost 101 pounds. It's a great story, and was kind enough to give me some of her time to come and chat. So first off, Nalida, thanks for spending the time. Maybe we could just start off a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Thank you, Jason. I'm very inspired by your new documentary that's up and coming. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. My family's originally from Haiti, and so I'm bilingual in both English and Haitian Creole.
Awesome. So growing up in Boston, growing up, your family being originally from Haiti, what was your expectation of food? What did meals look like growing up?
Meals were always large. I come from a family of 12 children as well. So even now, I have my husband and I have three children, and I'm not used to cooking small because we always cooked big because, I come from such a large family. But Haitian food is really delicious. It's just that it's also fattening. We use a lot of oils, a lot of salt. Other people, other West Indians may, get a little upset if I say this, but Haitian food is like one of the best foods in the Caribbean. I think even if they don't agree with that, they'll agree that the rice is the best. Haitian people have a way to cook rice. All the grains are separated and it's delicious, but we also use a lot of oil. So food is really big. And in our family also, we had a lot of gatherings and it involved a lot of food and we ate a lot.
So, question. Is the perfect rice attributed to the fact that you guys use a lot of oil, or is there some other technique involved?
I think it's the oil was a little bit of it, but I don't cook with oil anymore, and I don't cook with salt either. And my rice is still good, so it's really the measurement of the water with the rice. And now I don't even eat white rice anymore. So it's either brown, black, or red rice or wild rice. But it's still the technique because we pride ourselves. The rice has to be right. And, it can't be mushy and it can't be all clumped together. So even now, my brown rice, I would say, is pretty on point.
Okay, so you gotta spill the beans here. Give us some tips on improving my rice game.
Okay, so I use a pressure cooker now to cook my rice. So if I make brown or black rice, this is the secret. So we measure it. My husband's also Haitian. So when we talk about cups, he'll always say, well, which cup? Is it the American cup or the Haitian cup? Because the American cup is a regular measuring cup. The Haitian cup, what my husband and I coined the Haitian cup is a mug. So it's big. So first of all, because we cook big, so we'll say like four cups of rice. So picture 4 mugs of rice, brown rice, sometimes mixed with black or red rice, or sometimes it could just be the black or red rice. And then added to that is 5 cups of water. The problem is people usually put too much water, and that's the issue. So for the pressure cooker, I don't remember for the rice cooker because I haven't used the rice cooker for a while since I got the pressure cookers. But it's 4 cups of the rice, whole grain rice, with 5 cups of water, 22 minutes on that pressure cooker. That's it. You're gonna get perfect rice. And don't mess with it. Also, the thing is, people like to stir rice too much. Don't mess with it. You put it in the water. When the water's a little warm, you stir it one time. That's what my mother always said. You stir it one time, cover it, and don't mess with it.
Yeah, that's
That's
definitely
it.
that's I'm guilty as charged of that. My wife always gives me a hard time. She's like, "Stop messing with the rice." I said, "Well,
Yeah.
I just can't help it." Well, going back to your upbringing, were people around you? I know you said you come from a family of 12, and were the people around you overweight as well, or um, did they develop that over time, or were you kind of the only one in y'all's family or in your immediate circle of friends that was overweight?
Ironically, now a lot of my siblings are overweight. I have 4 sisters, and I was the one who was always the overweight ones. Some of my other sisters were kind of chubby, and now I'm the slim one, and everyone else is the one who's overweight. My mother was also always overweight. My father, ironically, he was an auto mechanic, and so very fit because because of his work, but he was slim. At the same time, he's the one who had heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and he died at the age of 61 from those complications. My mother who's the one who's always was obese, and she's lost some weight. She's she hasn't adopted a plant-based diet, but she's incorporated a lot of it after seeing me lose weight, and so she's lost some weight. But she's the one now. I mean, I'm not going to give her age because she may not be happy with that, but let's just say she's well into her 70s. And I mean, longevity genes count also because her mother, my grandmother, will be 99, God willing, in December. So she was bigger, but she also, now especially has a better diet than what my father had. I mean, he was slim because he was kind of active and maybe it was in his genes, but the diet was not good and conducive to that. So I do have siblings who have, high blood pressure and who have diabetes. And my second older brother sadly passed away from complications of diabetes.
Wow, sorry to hear that. So I know you were 101 pounds bigger than you are now. What were some of the struggles or frustrations that you had whenever you were bigger?
It was harder for me to move. So I have kids and, I'd go out and we'll go to the park and, they'd go on the swings. I didn't feel like moving a lot because I was larger. I did okay with it. We'd go out, but just walking long distances. Yes, I could walk, but you just don't have that same energy where, now I could sprint. If I had to get a bus, I could get that bus and I could know that I could make it and get that bus. But before, things were just a struggle. And then it started to cause me to have pains. And that was like part of the impetus for me to make that change.
Yeah, and I think I read that you had fibromyalgia. Can you talk about that a little bit for maybe some that aren't quite as familiar, including myself?
So it was about 3 years ago. It was in July of 2013. I went on vacation with my family and I came back and I just started experiencing more than just like some of the aches, like a total massive pain everywhere. I mean, all my joints, everywhere in my body hurt, including my skin. I'd never been in so much pain. I mean, I also suffered from gallstones, so that was hurting me. I mean, I felt like I was falling apart. So that's when I decided to make the change, and I kept thinking, what is this? This is like, fibromyalgia. I didn't go to the doctor because I was scared. I was like, if I go to the doctor, I'm going to be dead because something's going to happen. They're going to either say you've got this really bad thing because you can't be in that much pain and it not be serious, or they're going to put me on some medications that's going to cause bad side effects. And so I never officially got a diagnosis except after I saw my chiropractor. Once I started to lose weight and, still had some residual pain. And then, he would give the treatments and he'd be like, wow, this is kind of like a fibromyalgia because some of the points that you get. So like, the back of the shoulder blades underneath. So some of those specific points that a lot of times you get with fibromyalgia, I had them. And I had some of those residual points where I would, you could just feel them. And when they're touched, you could definitely feel them. And it'd be like, oh, hips and all of those different parts of your body. It's typical points where you'd get these pains.
Okay. And I saw in your Forks Over Knives interview, which was great, that you mentioned about 2.5 years ago when I found myself in excruciating chronic pain, I couldn't lie to myself any longer about my health and weight. What lies were you telling yourself about your health and your weight, or were you believing before that point?
It was kind of like, well, this is, how I am. I've tried to lose weight before. I've had a little bit of success. Twice I lost some weight, but I gained it all back. And I'm like, well, I'm okay. I don't have high blood pressure. It's not like, how my dad was. I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. My cholesterol was good because I was already vegetarian. I was a junk food vegetarian, but I'm the only one in my family who had never eaten meat because I just never liked the taste of it. Like, even as an infant, my mother would say she'd feed it to me and it would stay in my cheek. So then she just didn't give it to me because I didn't like it. So, it was kind of like, well, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm pretty healthy. I don't have, high cholesterol. I don't have high blood. I don't have these things. But yet I didn't really feel that well. And, I wasn't honest. I wasn't healthy, even though I didn't have some of those other illnesses.
And I think you said that at one point you looked at your 6-year-old and said to yourself that you didn't want to basically leave your children. Were you concerned at that point about your health at a level at which you thought that it was, you weren't going to survive, that the end was near, or what was kind of going through your head at that point?
I mean, as dramatic as it sounds, literally when I came back from vacation, And I'm feeling emotional a little bit about it. I felt really, I had never felt that bad in my life. Yes, I'd had like the gallstone attacks, and I was having those. I mean, that's like all the rich foods, oils, and all of that stuff. I didn't have to just eat meat. I didn't eat meat, but it was all the fried foods, oils, and things like that. And I felt so sick. I had never gotten to that point where everything hurt. Even my skin, I would say to my husband, even my skin was hurting. And I laid there on the bed one night, and my son, who he's 9 now, who's 3 then, and he came and he sat on the bed and he was talking to me, and I was like, you know what, Mikey? And I started to just talk to him and say, how, this things in life, and I found myself just talking about things in life and being philosophical. And then I thought to myself, what am I doing? It's almost like I'm preparing him for my death. And then he turned around and he looked at me. And I mean, that little boy, he just has that little face. And I looked in his eyes. And then at that moment, I just knew I wanted to live. I didn't want to leave. Anything can happen. I can go out there and get hit by a truck, but I didn't want to be the cause of my own demise. And for my kids in the future to look back and say, well, my mom was overweight and she didn't have a good diet and she got sick and that's why she died. I didn't want to leave them because I caused my own demise. So when I looked at him and I had like this moment, this epiphany, and I had bought Dr. Joe Furman's book, Eat to Live. I had it in my house. I'd had it in my house for like years. I didn't read the book. I'd skimmed through and I was like, oh, geez, this seems like a lot or whatever. And I didn't read it. And really at that moment when I made that decision and I just prayed, I just said, God, please, I know I abused my body, but please help me. And then I literally, on my nightstand, this book was literally there. It had been there. I turned around and I saw the book there. And that was like the answer to my prayer. And I said, okay. I said, I'm going to read that book. And that was the defining moment. I read that book and I followed that book. And I started to lose the weight. It took me 2 years to lose it.
Wow. And I know you said that you realized that basically you had abused your own body. Do you think before then that you had just kind of blamed things on external factors? It wasn't necessarily your fault. It wasn't something that you had caused, and that was a bit of a mind shift for you?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I knew that I had caused it, but I hadn't really totally owned up to it. I knew that I would just eat junk. I'm an itinerant teacher. I work with students who are blind and visually impaired, and I traveled to schools around Boston. And I would have junk. I would have chips, candy bars, whatever it may be. If I walk, in between schools, I wouldn't even walk in between schools if they were close. I'd drive. And then if there's a corner store, grab a candy bar, grab a donut. It would be like nothing. It's almost like I didn't care. It was addictive because it would make me feel good. So all the stress that I was feeling, that was like my drug. Which is, I think, the case for a lot of us in America and maybe even around the world, is like food has become a drug to kind of numb us, to keep us going, and even the advertisements, like sometimes I'll take the train and I'll see, it's like, satisfy that crave, just take it to make you feel good. And it makes you feel good temporarily, but then you crash and then you feel bad again and you start the whole cycle. So it's like this addictive thing. And it was really with the sugar, and the sugar usually came with your white flour and oil, donut. it all came together. So it was very addictive.
Yeah, it's a tough roller coaster to get off once you get on.
And only for me, and I think for a lot of people, only abstinence would work. Like I haven't had sugar since December 27th, 2013. So even though I started my journey in July of 2013, it took me a while. I started losing the weight, but I was still kind of having the sugar, having some of the vegan desserts that had sugar in there. And then I would feel, not that well. Again, I would start feeling some pains. And then by December 27th, I was like, that's it. I'm done. I would read, Dr. Furman's books. Other people would say, abstinence is the way to go. And that year, he had all these email blasts that he would be sending out, don't take one bite, not one bite. And so I would see the email. Sometimes I wouldn't even open up the emails. I'm like, you know what? I'm losing weight. It's the holiday season. I need my desserts. And I was kind of in denial for a while. And then by the time December came and Christmas passed and I was like still feeling in pain, I had lost weight. I was like, that's it. I'm done. No more sugar. and I have not eaten sugar then, and it's actually been easier to abstain than to try to moderate the sugar.
Yeah, I think it's also important, you use the word in there addiction and then you use abstinence, and it's almost like you kind of, at some level, if that is your or my or anybody's outlook on the way that they eat or the food, if it is truly addiction, you kind of have to treat it as such in a way that, you're kind of setting yourself up for success rather than just kind of like still feeding yourself something on the side.
Exactly.
So you read the book. So what does life look like in the weeks and months to come once you started making a change?
So the first thing I did, and much to the dismay of my children, is throw out all the junk food. Like literally, I walked into the kitchen, chips, I threw in the trash, everything. I mean, the Oreos. I mean, Oreos are vegan, technically. Threw them. My kids were like, "What?" Even the Oreos, every single thing. And my kids weren't, and they still aren't overweight. But I was like, we need to start fresh. And my husband, okay, he's a big guy, and he was much bigger than as well. I mean, and he wanted to lose weight. So he was like, okay, I'm going to go with it. I do, most of the cooking and the shopping. So he's like, okay, whatever. I'm willing to roll with it. So I literally threw all the junk food, all the chips, all the candy, cookies, everything. I mean, my kids were like, no, no. I was like, in the trash. You can't get it out now. It's dirty, in the trash. I threw them all out. And then I just replaced them with healthy things. So I got subscribed to an organic delivery service. So every other week I have a box delivered of fruits and veggies. I, do my shopping. I do online food shopping to be delivered. I go to the store. I'm in Whole Foods. I'm in Stop and Shop. I get Boston Organic. I'm doing all of these things. So I'm replacing it. The kids, no more candy bars, but I have Lara bars, the ones that are just nuts and dates. That's it. Those are the only ingredients. So I just replaced all of that junk food with whole foods, whole plant foods. And so my kids, started to eat them. I started cooking that way. I started making all these, these plant-based meals, not just vegetarian like we were, but really good, healthy foods without all the oil and salt and sugar. And so everyone's taste buds started to adapt. I mean, salt, I think, was the last thing to go. And really, I credit Chef AJ for that, because she reached out. I reached out to her online on her page, and she gave me some tips and talked about that. And, I got to be part of her group also. And, and she always says, make healthy taste delicious. And I'm like, I'm Haitian people. And my husband was like, well, Haitian, we eat salt. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not good for us. A lot of us, have high blood pressure and all of that stuff and heart disease. So, I started, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a bean stew. Add the tomato paste in there. It has natural sodium. Spinach has a lot of, natural sodium. I didn't have to add salt, and herbs and spices, Mexican fiesta spices, and all of these no salt seasonings. And I'm like, okay, I can make this taste good. We can still have some of the foods that we liked, but just cooked differently. Eliminate the salt, add, natural seasonings in there. And so, I've been able to do that. And my kids are always challenging me, well, why don't you try to make, this kind of dish or a version of this? Can you make this healthy? And so I'm always like coming up with different recipes to make, a healthy dessert. Even a sweet potato pie, I made a pudding that was a sweet potato. We call it sweet potato pudding pie, because it tastes just like sweet potato pie, but without the butter, without oil, without all of this junk. It's like white beans, sweet potato, dates.
Yeah, I think too, specifically on the salt, because I know that's one that gets a lot of people, myself included. But once you begin to cook with less and less of that, your taste buds become accustomed to it. And then you also begin to taste the actual flavors of the food or the flavors of the spices. And so it's amazing how, if you approach it kind of in that way, at least I've found for myself, it's much easier than just, thinking of it as, just cutting it out cold turkey, and everything just being bland without any spice or anything else.
Exactly. And I think the method of cooking it, so I started roasting vegetables, and really roasted vegetables, just the sweetness of it. It just comes out like cauliflower. That's my favorite, roasted cauliflower. I mean, that's what I have for breakfast a lot of days, a roasted cauliflower with bananas. I mean, the two combinations, and sometimes a little bit of walnuts on there. Oh my goodness. It's like, it's so good. I would have never, I wasn't even a vegetable person, even though I was vegetarian my entire life. My vegetables were like French fries. I would eat tomatoes, which, technically a fruit, but a salad, I wouldn't even eat salads. I mean, my husband was shocked. I mean, he's like, "Oh my goodness, like you're eating salads," because I never ate a salad. I mean, he would eat vegetables, but I wasn't into it. You know, I'd get a little bit on the side. So your tastes do adjust. I'm like, if I can eat these massive salads now, anybody can do this. If I can stop sugar, anybody can do it because like I only know one other person who loves sugar more than I did.
Yeah, you went from not eating any vegetables except for French fries to you've got kale in your shirt now. So obviously things have changed a bit.
Exactly. Dr. Furman's shirt that he sells, kale is the new beef.
Oh, awesome. So I know that you said you had lost weight a couple times before. Was there a pivotal moment in this change or this, season in your life that you realized that things were different, that it wasn't, going to be, a repeat of maybe an experience that you had before, and that you realized that life was going to look different from here on out?
I think this time I had reached like that rock bottom, and I had that moment, I had that epiphany. I was praying like, oh my goodness, I felt so bad and I never wanted to feel that way again. And then just knowing I didn't want to leave my family like this. I don't want to feel like this, and I don't have to feel like this. I mean, it's like something happened. I had this epiphany, and then I realized, okay, I have the tools. What would it cost? What would it, just try? Just do it. It's not even just try it, just do it. So I said, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I started it, and I'm like, you know what? I can do this. It's not impossible. And I just, worked on it, day by day worked on it. And then it's like, okay, if I didn't get it perfect, okay, if I had like corn chips or whatever, then I would just, okay, go back and just keep working on it to the point where I didn't feel like I had to have these things. I don't eat junk because I just don't. I eat real food. And it just got ingrained in all of us. And my younger daughter, who has autism, but she has a lot of insights. One day she just says, we eat real food. We don't eat junk anymore. We eat real food. And I'm like, that is so insightful. We eat real food. So it's just that switch happened where this is a lifestyle. This is the way we eat now. This is the way I eat. This is what I do. I move. I exercise. I didn't before. Like I was like, oh, I'm too tired. I'm not gonna get up. My husband would be like, oh, if you want to get up, I'm getting the kids ready for school. You can exercise. Like he, wanted me to do that. I couldn't do it. But once I changed that lifestyle, and I think the foods that I ate, I had more energy. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd be up, and I'd be there, and I would do my the 2 years that it took me to lose 101 pounds. I didn't go to the gym. I just, went into my living room, put in the DVDs, did my kickboxing, did my walk weighted pounds, did, my hand weights. I didn't really start going to the gym really until this summer. I had a back injury the beginning of last school year, so in September. So I had to go to physical therapy. I had to go to chiropractic and all of that. And I just graduated from physical therapy. So I started doing, heavy lifting and all of that. And then they said, well, you need to keep up with that. And so I was like, okay, so then I have to go to a gym that has this equipment. And that's when I just really started it. I mean, I'm going to be heading to the gym after we talk.
Oh, that's awesome. So I know you had gallbladder pain and gallstones before. Where are you kind of out with that now?
Well, thankfully, I still have my gallbladder because it's not bothering anymore. I don't feel it. Like I would have these gallbladder attacks, and anyone who's ever had a gallbladder attack knows it hurts. You feel this pain radiate all around your chest, your abdomen. It's massive pain, but I don't have it anymore. My liver functions used to be like, very high when they were tested. My liver functions were normal. Like I went to the doctor after I made the change. I said, okay, I switched to a doctor who was more holistic, traditional MD, but it's at a health center where it's an integrative health center. So I switched to them, and I said to her, okay, I'm doing this program. I'm doing whole foods, plant-based. I was still, very much overweight, but I had lost maybe, I think 30 pounds when I, started going. And she was like, okay, go with it and all of that. Took my blood test, and they were already better. And then when I saw her again just this year, she was like, oh my goodness, like you said you were going to do this and you really lost, 100 pounds, it was 2 years. She was like, what did you do? People say they're going to do this. And I told her, this is what I did. I said, I'm doing this program, Eat to Live, whole foods, plant-based, SOS free, salt, oil, and sugar free. And that's it. And she was like, oh my goodness. So that's what I did.
Awesome. So anything that's changed for you physically, socially, emotionally that you weren't necessarily expecting at the beginning of this?
I think socially, I'm a smaller person, and I've never been this small in my life, like a size 6. I've never been this small. I don't think any females, have been this small in my family. So that's been very different because people always used to see me as the fat one, the big girl, and all of a sudden I'm not. And so, in a way, it's been maybe difficult for other people to see me that way, and it's taken me a while to see myself that way. I mean, I had to make like a whole photo album on my phone so that I can look at my progress and just see myself how it is. Because and a lot of people who lose weight, it's difficult to see yourself because you've been seeing yourself as obese for so long. When you're slim, it's hard to see yourself as slim. And so, I've had to look and say, oh my goodness, I'm not this obese person anymore. I'm not overweight. I'm a normal weight person, and I'm still working on it. I still, have more fat that I'm working to get out, and build muscle. And so I think especially getting stronger and building that muscle, that's helping me and helping me to see myself better because I'm feeling stronger and I'm seeing myself stronger. Like I'm actually seeing the muscles. I'm like my shoulders. Years ago, I remember like seeing someone, at a store, at a shoe store, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" I said, "I would love to have shoulders like that woman." And recently I looked and I had on my workout that was like a tank top, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I have those shoulders. I finally have them."
That's awesome.
So now I'm working on the abs and everything else. But I always say to people, don't be jealous, don't hate. Instead of doing those things, be inspired by someone. So I've always I love to read inspirational stories. I'll go on websites and watch interviews of people who've lost weight, read their testimonies, look at their pictures. And now I'm looking at people who have lost weight and who built muscle, and I'm like, well, if they could do it, if they could lose 100 pounds or over 100 pounds and build all this muscle and be tight, I can do it too. Because before I would think, I wouldn't be able to wear this, or I wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, I had a C-section with my son. That was my only C-section, and the doctor was like, "Oh, I'm going to give you a bikini cut." And I'm like, "Who cares?" I mean, when I delivered him, I was almost 300 pounds. Literally, like the last time I weighed, I was already like in the 200s, and then I gained a lot of weight when I was pregnant. And the last time I weighed myself when I was pregnant with him, I was at 298 pounds, and I had gained more, but I was like, I told the midwife, I'm not weighing myself anymore because I didn't want to know like how big I got. So when I was delivering him, I already knew I was like 300 plus pounds. And you're talking about a bikini cut? I'm like, dude, I don't care. It doesn't matter what kind of cut you give me, because at that point, I didn't have it in my head that I would even be wearing a bathing suit, period. It would be shorts and a t-shirt to get in the water. So, but that mindset changed once I started losing weight. I'm like, well, you know what? I got that bikini cut. Maybe one day I could, I wore a tankini this summer, it's possible. So is that switch that, I'm not this same person anymore. It's different for me now. And I think dealing with some past issues, like a lot of us may have, like childhood trauma, different things in our past that's happened. And sometimes we use food to kind of comfort us. And it's been a change for me. And I've, gone to counseling about it. I've never, shied away and not said that. I have, my page on Facebook where, I talk about my journey. And I've said, if you need to seek counseling, if you're using food like as a comfort or whatever may have happened in your past, if you need to seek counseling, seek counseling. Some people don't want to. They just say, okay, pray. I'm a faithful person. I pray. But, I got a counselor who's a faith-based counselor. Do whatever you need to do that's gonna help you so that you don't go back to that mindset of, being a compulsive eater or just, being obsessed or addicted to food. Make that total change. So it's really holistic. It's your body, it's your mind, it's your spirit, it's everything.
Wow. Yeah, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. But one thing that that kind of stuck with me and all that was you said no one in my family has ever been a size 6, which is incredible to think of. I know you said you come from a big family, and you have people kind of all over the spectrum as far as where they've ended up size-wise, and kind of, so to speak, the genes maybe they got or the predispositions towards something. So that's incredible. It's got to be a great thing for your family to see as well. I know that you said that since July 25th, 2013, that you've logged your food, your exercise, and where you're at mentally with an app um, every day. So why did you decide to do this, and how's it helped? Kind of along the way. Why'd you make the decision to do it in the beginning, and then now looking back, like how has it proven itself to be useful through the time?
Well, I know when I had tried to lose weight before, whenever I did like any kind of food journaling, exercise journaling, I was more successful. And then as soon as I kind of like dropped that, then it started going downhill because then I wasn't honest with myself. I wasn't accountable. I'd be like, oh yeah, I didn't really eat that much and all of that. And then so just we learn from our mistakes. So I learned from my past mistakes that if I don't put it down, then I'm not going to be accountable. And then just looking at the research that's been done, so the National Weight Loss Registry, they've done all of this research and show that the people who have lost the most amount of weight and who have kept it off are people, who journal their food. Not to mean that someone wouldn't, everybody's different, but for a lot of people who are obese, and who have lost weight and who have kept it off, a majority of the people journal, do some kind of journaling. So I decided, okay, before you use different systems, writing things down, I'm like, okay, I'm into technology. I teach technology to my students, and I like things that are, pretty quick and easy and not something I have to obsess about. So I looked at different apps, and, one of my nephews was like, oh, Auntie, I'm using MyFitnessPal. I mean, this is a kid who, he's in his 20s. He's very fit. He goes to the gym, and he's like, so I looked at it, and I'm like, I tried different apps. And then I just settled on one that's, the Lose It app. And that's the one that I use. It's just user friendly. It's easy. And a lot of people, they don't like the calorie counting part of it. And I know a lot of people who are plant-based like, oh, you don't need to count calories, whatever. And I'm like, hey, it's counting it for me, whatever. But it's showing me the nutrients. So I want to see how much sodium I'm getting per day. Because even though I'm not eating salt, it's good to see. Like, because I've eaten spinach and all these things, it'll be like 400 milligrams of sodium from all natural foods, which proves you can get it naturally from the foods without having to add 1 grain of salt into your diet. It's giving me my fiber. So I'm making sure, because some days I'm like, okay, I'm usually over 40 grams of fiber per day. And I like to see that. If not, I'll look back and I'm like, okay, what is it? Why today is it like 30 grams of fiber? And I'm like, okay, I need to eat more beans. So it kind of makes me reflect on what I'm eating and how I'm doing. And so I've done it, and it's quick. It's just like 30 seconds to just say, okay, this is what I'm eating. And it's also helped me because I was always a big snacker, and all of the snacking adds up. So even if you're, whole foods, plant-based, and you're snacking, some people are like, I can't lose the weight, and I'm not even eating that much. And people are like, oh, eat as much as you want. But you know what? It adds up when you're just, snacking on this, snacking on that all of the time, and you don't give your digestion a break. So I find when I'm doing this journaling, and putting this in there, then I'm more mindful, and I'm thinking, and I'm logging my exercise. So if I'm not logging the exercise, I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do today? I'm going to put on the DVD and do that. I'm going to go for a long walk. I used to run on the treadmill. Now I do the elliptical in the gym. I need to be accountable and look at, in the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, and the end of the day, and say, okay, this is what I've done for myself to improve myself.
So I know you mentioned, it kind of sounded like that neither you nor your husband were very conscious about, the health-oriented side of eating. What were those beginning conversations like? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but was he pretty receptive to all the changes? I know you also said that you basically turned your living room into a gym. So, at home, it sounds like you made a lot of changes all at once. How did that kind of go over? How was that received? And, did you get any pushback on that? Or was that kind of just like, let's do this?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that I'm fortunate. My husband he's a really good guy. He's, he's a musician. I always say he's a guitarist and a bassist. And anybody who's a bassist, they're just cool. They're laid back, you know what I mean? So he's already a more laid back kind of guy. He's always the shyer one, I'm the one who's, not totally outgoing, but, I could, I'll meet strangers and I'll strike up a conversation. I'll talk, whatever. He's more reserved, but, he's a cool guy. And he knew how much I was suffering. he knew like the pain that I was in and how I couldn't even move around that much. And in July of 2013, I was suffering a lot, and I'm like, I can't stay like this. I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna die, Michael. I can't stay like this. So he knew how bad it got and how much weight that I had on me. And he also, had a lot of weight, and he's just like, you know what? And he liked vegetables, which was good. I mean, he would eat more vegetables than me, even though, yes, he was overweight, he'd eat all the oily stuff, but he liked vegetables. So when I said, I'm going to do a lot more vegetables, he was like, yes, we're gonna get more vegetables in there. He had been kind of encouraging me to, do more exercise, because then, it would lighten up my mood. He had started to do some exercise. He was like, you'd feel better. So he really supported that. And he just said, okay. And in the morning, he told the kids, don't bother mom, don't go into the living room. And so I'd be there, and sometimes, they'd kind of come by and they'd stay in the doorway. My son especially, he liked to see me do like the kickboxing. I don't know, something about seeing mom do kickboxing, and he'd say, okay, do this one. This is a tough one. Do that one. I'm like, oh my goodness, this one's going to kill me. Like, this woman has me like jumping all around the room. And so he'd like to watch me. So it kind of felt good, being at home, and then my kids come in, they'll walk by and just see me doing this, and then they'd want to, do some exercise also. And, I thought that would be good for them also to know this is what you're supposed to do. Move your body. It's a natural thing. It's a good thing. And it felt good. And I felt happy doing it. I mean, initially, I'm not going to lie. Like when I first started working out, like I have the picture of me, in this Red Sox, T-shirt and these pants. And I mean, even my look didn't look. I don't even think I smiled in that photo. And it was like, oh my goodness, I have to do this. I could barely walk. Like I was doing these walk videos. I could barely do 15 minutes. I could barely do 20 minutes. I built it up, 30 minutes. I started, and then it wasn't enough. I needed to do more. I needed to do kickboxing. Now I'm like on the elliptical, like, and that's the only thing that mimics the running for me. Because of the back injury, I had to kind of scale back on running on the treadmill. But the elliptical, I'm like, oh my goodness, you can just burn as many calories. Your heart rate is going, and you just feel good. Like this is a natural drug, exercise. So fueled with the plant foods that make you feel good, and the exercise is just an awesome combination.
Yeah, well, what a difference 3 years can make between not being able to make it through a step video and then now having to figure out what other exercises you can do to use up all that energy. So any kind of physical or personal goals that you're working towards that you kind of have in your sights?
So my goals now, so once I lost the weight, I said, okay, I reached my goal. My next step is to, build my muscle. I kind of had, I guess, a setback with that a bit, because when I got the back injury, I travel a lot. I carry, a lot of things. And so I had, years ago, I had a herniated disc. And so I kind of had like a re-injury, and I had to start back with a chiropractor. I did trigger point therapy at my integrative health center, and that helps because all natural herbs injected. And then later on, I started physical therapy. It kind of scaled me back because I couldn't do all the things that I wanted to do, like physically. Like if I started to do the kickboxing, I jumped too much and put too much pressure, I'd be back at the chiropractor getting a treatment because I couldn't walk. So it kind of brought me back, but at the same time, still keeping with the same lifestyle and diet helped me not to, gain back, a whole bunch of weight, because that normally would be what would happen to me. So I felt good about that. So now my goals continuing is I'm much stronger. I graduated from physical therapy in the beginning of July. I joined the gym now. And so now I'm still continuing the heavy lifting that I started, because my physical therapy was a place where what they did with you was strength training. That was the physical therapy, literally. Like you walk in and it's in a gym. And they're like, okay, you're going to do like pull downs. You're going to do all these things. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, I thought I was coming for PT. Where's the massage? No, you're working out. And it was all strength training. So that kind of helped me to get back to that goal of building the muscle. And, and it's helped. Like I can start seeing the definition. And so my goals going forward is to continue building the muscle, getting stronger, and getting rid of more fat. So really, I want to, get down. We'll see. Another maybe 15 pounds. I mean, sometimes people at work will be like, oh my goodness, don't say that. People, when you lose a lot of weight, you're already too skinny. And I'm like, no, it's because you're used to seeing me so big and so many people are so big that you think I'm too small, but I'm actually not. I mean, I'm right in the, mid-range for my height, but I'm I'm not too skinny. And so really my goal is to get the excess fat, because it's really about health. And excess abdominal fat is not safe for you. I mean, research shows that. I've read it in Dr. Furman's books, other doctors' books. It's not healthy for you. It can contribute to cancer. It can contribute to diabetes and everything. So really, for my health, I want to get rid of more fat. And I mean, your clothes fit better also. When you lose it, your jeans fit better. You feel better. You look better, and your body is healthier. So those are really my goals, is to not stop there. And I really feel like I can get there. I mean, this is like the first time since I started this journey where I feel like, okay, I have these goals and I'm going to make it and I'm going to do it. And then I set another goal, I'm going to do it. And I feel like, I mean, thank God, by God's grace, I can do it. Like it happened. I did this, so I could do that. And other people have done it, and I've seen them, and I look at the inspiration. So I have a new photo album now on my phone, and this one is inspirational photos. So I have a few of mine, how I was and how I progressed, but then other people who have lost weight and who have this muscle definition, and they've done it. And I'm like, okay, so if she can do it. I'm looking at her before picture. I'm seeing, some of the flab, and, she's got 6 packs, and, the thighs, are muscled. If she can do it, if he can do it, then I can do it too. So, I'm trying to keep inspiring myself that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing how a new normal tends to get set sometimes, and that bar, or what seems impossible, is now completely possible. So what would you tell to somebody at the beginning of this journey? Somebody who is, trying to figure it out, who's maybe, really wants to make a change, but has some self-doubt, or, just needs some encouragement to kind of get started?
I would say to just do it. Just take the step, because a lot of times we don't start. Like, I look back and I would say my only regret is not taking that first step sooner, not starting. I mean, don't look at how far you have to go. I mean, initially, yes, you kind of look at it because you set a goal, you write it down, and I wrote it down and say, okay, this is at least my initial goal. This is where I want to be. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop there, but at least I want this to be my initial goal, to lose 100 pounds. Put your goal and own your goal, and then start. Don't just say, well, I'll do it on Monday, or maybe next week. Or if you kind of, you messed up a bit, and just say, oh, forget about it. The whole day's a washout. I'm just going to, just binge or whatever. No, if you mess up for one meal, you messed up for one meal. Start right back at the next bite. Don't just start and keep going. And really don't make the excuses for yourself, because, be honest with yourself. I really had to be honest with myself and say, okay, this is where you've brought yourself. This is where you are. I mean, we look at ourselves. We know ourselves naked. We see ourselves. This is what you've done to yourself. I said, Nalida, this is what you've done to yourself. Okay, now you can do something about it. Just do it. Don't just say, you're going to try like you did before. Just do it. Just take the steps and do it. You have the tools. You know what to do. Do it. And that's what I did every day. Push through it. Work through it. After a couple months, it gets easier. It really gets easier. Initially, you might be like, oh my goodness. The sugar, oh my goodness. Like, I was so addicted to sugar. To go and I travel to different schools. I go to the teachers' rooms. Everyone always has these foods that they bring in, these cookies and all these things. It takes a while for your brain to adjust. I would resist. I would not eat them. I would say, I don't eat this, and I would have my own things. Like, I would say, I'd get home and I would be like, okay, so I'm going to make something healthy. I'm going to, put these rolled oats, bananas, dates, mix it all together and, add some raisins in there and tell the kids, okay, I'm making cookies. And they're like, oh my goodness. Like, when I first started making like these healthy, like, oh my goodness, cookies, we're having cookies again. And I would say, you do realize that, like, there's no sugar in here, there's no oil. And my oldest daughter was like, I don't care what's in there, as long as it's called a cookie. Okay. I just want a cookie again. So just changing the mindset, do it differently. You can have a cookie, just put fruits in there. Fruits are naturally sweet. You get all the nutrients with it, and it tastes great. So really, it's a process. Just take it one step at a time. Go with it. just go with it and go one step at a time, and you're going to eventually get there. If you don't start and take that first step, you won't get there. And it's always it's a journey, so it's continually. So I haven't stopped. I'm not there. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until I'm 6 feet under. It's a journey. You keep on walking. You keep on moving. You just make new goals for yourself. You know, when you've accomplished this, okay, this is going to be my new goal. Once I have all these muscles in the six pack, you know, Jason, is going to be something else. I'm going to say, okay, it's going to be keeping up the strength. It's going to be, you know, trying something else. It's always like, keep going, keep moving, don't stop.
Yeah, always looking forward. I love that. And then I guess in a similar vein, if you could go back, you know, 5 years ago, or, you know, before you first started this journey, and you could give yourself some words of encouragement or some advice, what would that be?
It would be, Nalida, you can do this. You can take back your health. You can get healthy. Don't give up. Don't just look at yourself and say, you know, oh my goodness, like I'm way too far gone to get anywhere. This is how I'm going to be. You know, you're not going to stay at this size 22, 24. You're not going to have these. I mean, I still have my size 24 pair of jeans, so I can look at them. I mean, it's somewhere in the back of my closet, but, you know, if I ever need to just look at it or whatever, I still have them. Size 24 pair of jeans, and I'm looking at them, you know, compared to my size 6 jeans, and I would have never thought, you know, in my mind, I was like, okay, when I started, you know, if I'm a size 10 again, because one time I had lost weight, and that was the most that I'd gotten is to size 10. I'm like, and I felt good at that weight. It was actually, you know, a good weight and everything, and a good size. You know, people complimented me. People, you know, called me thin and slim. And so I thought, okay, if I can get there. But it's like, I would tell myself, don't set limits on yourself, because once I got to the 10, all those clothes that I had in my closet, literally for like 10 years, I think it was, in the back of my closet that I thought I would never wear again, I could wear them. And then once I started to lose more, I was like, oh my goodness, like this was like my dream. Getting to that size 10 was my dream. Like the dress that I wore to my son's first communion, my husband had bought it for me for my birthday. It was a size 10. It was beautiful. It was lavender. And I was like, this is it. You know, I've made it. I've reached it. And then so once I started to lose weight more, and I had to give it up, it was almost like a little sad in a way, because I thought this was where that I could reach, and this was it. So when I had to pack those clothes up, I mean, I folded them with love, and I'm like, okay, someone else is going to enjoy this. It was therapeutic for me in a lot of ways, because I didn't know that I would make it further than that. So when I went down and like an 8, and I went down, so then once I went down, I'm like, okay, I can totally do this. Maybe, you know, whatever. It could be a 6. It could be some 4s, you know, fit also. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna roll with this. I'm not gonna give myself limits. So I would tell myself a couple of things, but one of them is, don't set limitations on yourself. Be gentle with yourself, and just do it. Just take the steps one at a time, and don't give up.
Yeah, being gentle with yourself is a big one, especially like you said. You know, sometimes it takes so long to no longer see yourself as a bigger person and everything that comes with that. And sometimes it's a difficult thing to do for yourself.
It's tough. I walk by sometimes like car windows or store, you know, the glass, and I'd have to do a double take, because I didn't recognize myself. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness. You know, I went to a furniture store with one of my sisters a couple months ago, and I was like, all these mirrors were there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like I need mirrors in my house. Like I'm doing some renovations now. And I'm like, I totally need to get some mirrors, not because I'm vain. You know, the only thing I'm kind of vain about is my hair. I mean, I've grown it out, and I'm a little vain about that, but you know, that's about the only ththing. But I mean, I saw myself in these mirrors, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is me. And then she was like, yeah, you're smaller now. And I'm like, I couldn't see myself like that. You know, it's hard. It's like in your mind, it takes a while for your mind to catch up to your body.
Yeah, well, I'm a little jealous of your hair. I mean, mine's not bad, but I've got a long way to go on you. So, lastly, where can people connect with you and find out more about what you're up to?
So I have my plant-based journey, my health and fitness journey page on Facebook, which is just facebook.com/plant-based God's grace. So plant-based God's grace. And that's where, I'll write out, put information there, share from other plant-based sites. Sometimes I'll put some of my journal in there, some of my thoughts and reflections, maybe some epiphanies that I've had that maybe might resonate and help other people. I've had people message me sometimes just, what did you do? And I'm like, it's all there. I'll, just share information freely with people because people have done it for me. Shared information and, given information. So I like to do that and share information with people and connect.
Awesome. Well, I'll include links to that. And Nalida, thanks so much for the time, for being honest, for sharing your story, for your inspiration. And I'll look forward to hearing all about your six-pack and everything else that is to come for you.
Definitely. And thank you so much, Jason. And thank you for the work that you're doing. Really, one of the biggest things for me was, watching other people and their inspirational stories and reading about them, seeing their before, after, before, during pictures. So what you're doing is incredible, and I think it's going to help so many people.
Well, thank you, and we'll both keep looking forward.
Definitely.
All right, have a great day.
All righty, you too.